Every time I edit a video, it reminds me why I don't edit videos more often. Honestly, it went pretty easy. The end result was good, but there was one specific step that for some reason was giving me issues. I have all these assets that for some reason were not showing up in the final render. And then every time I try to fix it, it's like, okay, I fix one thing, but then all of the other shit that was working suddenly stops working. And going back and forth trying to figure out how to make all of it work. And I couldn't, so I ended up being like, okay, I give up on trying to fix whatever I did wrong here. I'm gonna take the version that is in the best shape and then fill in the few missing assets in a brand new video. Just take the completed video and just edit those missing assets in. It's frustrating. It took way longer than it should have. I'm lazy and sometimes easily distracted. It's 3 p.m. I haven't eaten anything today. And by nothing, I mean I've had some snacks. Got some nutty buddies. I've had plenty of water. Don't worry, I'm staying hydrated. I got multiple empty water bottles here. It's 3 p.m. I've gotten out of bed twice to pee. Other than that, I've done nothing with my day except playing some games and playing some games, watching TV, and editing a video, which took way longer than it should have, which is why I was actually planning to do 2 videos today, but that one video felt like I gave the effort for 3 videos, just trying to figure out how to make this thing work. So now I don't feel like it anymore. So this is your second video. So honestly, there's a video I kept trying to script, but it's hard to find out how to make it entertaining. So I decided, let's cut it down to just like the core principles. And I want to talk about my favorite Marvel movies because there's a trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And at first, when I saw it, I was like, I don't believe it. Like, it's too good. It almost feels like a fan edit. Like, I am excited. It's the first Marvel movie I've really been excited to see since probably No Way Home, which coincidentally is my all-time favorite Marvel movie. Now, let's get into something right here. A lot of people don't like that movie as much. First and foremost, everything I say on this channel is my personal opinion. It is not a stated fact. It's just how I feel. Second of all, my uncle used to work at Alien Worlds, and so I grew up. So at times when he was watching me, I'd spend the whole day either behind the counter or sometimes in the back room just reading comic books. And my favorites were Spider-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog. Occasionally, I'd read other things like Hulk, Batman, Superman, whatever happens to be on the shelf. But it's weird for me because, like, growing up, I grew up in an era where every comic book movie that did exist was so hokey. You had the 50s, the Adam West Batman. You have there's a Captain America movie. I think there's two actually. I only saw one of them, but I think there is a second one that I just never looked at. I saw the Supergirl movie. There's, but I grew up in an era where superheroes were starting to take the forefront because you had Michael Keaton do 2 incredible Batman movies, which I'm going to be honest, not a huge fan of. And once again, no statement of fact. If I'm being real, I'm not a huge Tim Burton fan, and his style, his aesthetic, is just not something that I'm really like eager to ever look at. I've seen like half of Tim Burton movies, and I've only liked half of the ones that I have watched. So, so I enjoy the first one because Jack Nicholson gave a brilliant performance as Joker. The second one, Eh, I hardly ever watch that. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it. it it's just very, yeah. I mean, look, but look, like, I'm gonna get off subject if I don't stick to. Point is, I mean, there is no point. There's no point. I guess I'm just trying to establish a baseline because when I look at, like, you got the two Tim Burton movies that were then followed by the two Joe Schumacher movies, which, while technically sequels, some people prefer to think of them as just something else completely, and I think the majority of people can agree that Batman Forever had a lot of wasted potential, and if the only thing you change is give it a different director, it probably would have been amazing. You have some incredibly talented actors. It's a half decent storyline. It's it was just some very flawed execution of a lot of really good things. Batman Forever, I think everyone can agree that that's a bad movie. I'm sitting here to tell you that is a horrible movie. But I think that's the Batman movie I have watched the most in my lifetime. Because it's just funny. It's fun. And I think for the majority of my life, I would not admit that I liked it. And it was my guilty pleasure movie. It's funny, it's stupid, it's a horrible movie, but it's enjoyable. I'm glad we're reaching a point where I think more people are willing to accept the fact that entertainment is a very personal experience. You know, Oscar winning movies aren't always worth sitting through for the majority of people. So, like, I can finally admit that, yeah, I unironically have always loved that movie. I, and I do feel brave enough to say it now. But I think one of the best things that people can say is that I saw on Reddit once there was a discussion in one of the superhero subs where it was like, it's not a bad movie, it's just a bad follow up to a Tim Burton movie. Like, that's where they went wrong. They made an Adam West movie as a sequel to a Tim Burton movie. They made a good 1950s Batman, but it wasn't the 1950s anymore. This isn't what people wanted. It, and I'm like, yeah, that totally makes perfect sense. Like, you explained it perfectly there. And then, I'm blessed because I was a kid. I was still in elementary school when suddenly real superhero movies start taking place. Blade, I don't think a lot of people think of him as a superhero, but that's one of the first, like, big comic book movies that I really remember. And then, because you got Blade, and then you had, X-Men and Spider-Man. You had Superman Returns, which is still horrible. I feel like that one somehow keeps getting worse the more I watch it, but whatever. We'll just pretend that one doesn't exist. Anyways, there's a lot of good shit out there, and it's getting better. Like the first Hulk movie, it was bad then. It's somehow worse now. I liked the first Hulk movie, but the further away we get from it, the worse it gets. I'm like, oh wow. And I don't even want to. I could sit here for hours dissecting the whole Nolan trilogy, everything good about it, everything wrong with it. I'll just let you know this. I don't really watch any of those movies. It's a complicated answer. We don't have enough time for that. We got to get into other shit. When Marvel first started, wasn't that into it. Never been a huge Iron Man fan, but they did a great job with him. And I feel like it was slow starting, but it did eventually, once it picked up, storytelling got really fucking good. And my personal favorite is No Way Home. A lot of people don't like it. I feel like that movie's so underappreciated. Me personally, I really only have two complaints about that movie, and they both surround Aunt May. I think I did a review of it when it came out, and I feel like my opinion hasn't really changed at all. I think one, I hate when they do the drawn out death scenes. It's like you got enough time to give this whole speech. You got enough time to go to the fucking hospital. Sitting here dying for 5 fucking minutes. That's just a personal gripe. The other one is, once again having to shoehorn the great power, great responsibility line, which we really didn't need. We established that that was part of his character from the moment he was introduced. So we really, and if you were going to shoehorn it in, maybe have Toby say it. But whatever. The movie exists. It is what it is. I'm just saying. Those are my only real gripes about the movie. Otherwise, it's perfect. And I say perfect. I mean, like, once again, I've stated this before, but I think it has to be said for the record. Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, 10 years worth of storytelling. Spider-Man No Way Home, that's 20 years of life. I mean, you could have told me that, hey, one day they'll have a live-action Avengers movie. I'd have been like, yeah, that makes sense. But you tell me that one day they're going to introduce the multiverse, I'd have been like, yeah, no, that's never going to happen. Not in the real world. The day that they announced that Andrew Garfield had been cast, I knew we would never see Tobey Maguire in the Spider suit again. The day they announced that we would have Spider-Man in the MCU, I knew we would never see Andrew Garfield again. So to see both of them on the screen, like, Avengers is a childhood dream come true, but a live-action Spider-Verse, that wasn't even a fantasy. That just wasn't possible. And I'm glad to know they're not completely abandoning the multiverse, even though they are pivoting away from, like, the specific villain that they had originally tried for. But, yeah. Anyways, so No Way Home, my all-time favorite movie, which brings up my second all-time favorite, once again, so slept on, Civil War. And that's one, like, I hate a lot of the criticism about it because it's criticism that people were giving before the movie even got released, which is that, this isn't worth, there's no stakes, the battle, because, like, they're fighting their friends. What's at stake here? I'm like, have you ever had a fight with your friend? Like, have you ever really had a fight with a friend, something that just ended the friendship? I mean, losing your best friend cannot be more devastating than losing a lover. Those are the highest stakes. Second of all, I mean, looking, I didn't have this information at the time, but in hindsight, this is like basically part one of the Infinity War trilogy. Because the events of this movie almost directly lead to Infinity War being the chaotic mess that it is. Because the Avengers are fractured. If they were a whole cohesive unit, could they have fended off Thanos? Who knows? Maybe. At least it's more of a possibility. But whatever. The point is, because regardless, it's a good story to tell. They introduced some interesting new characters that were fun. I enjoyed seeing Black Panther on the screen. It was like it's the best iteration of Spider-Man ever. You got this, enthusiastic young kid, doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing, but, wisecracking the hell out of it. The airport sequence, in my opinion, is possibly the best fight sequence in the entire MCU. That's me personally. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree, but you get to see a lot of people that, they're going full out with a lot of their powers, and it's not just one versus an army of nobodies that you don't care about. It's a bunch of people you've learned to care about all of them, and now they're all going after each other. And like, the airport fight sequence is like my favorite fight sequence in any Marvel movie. My second favorite is gotta be at the end of the movie, Iron Man versus Captain America. That one is as fun as it is to watch. It's like the first time I saw it, that was painful to sit through. I had such a visceral, emotional response to that. And then I also love Infinity War, which I'll say I've said this for the again, but I'll say it for the record. I'll continue saying it for the record. I would never have thought of this at the time, but in retrospect, it would have been cool if there was no end game, if Infinity War was like the last movie in that saga, and then like that's the start of Phase Four. Oh, the bad guy won, and half the heroes on Earth are dead. Half the we've lost so many people. How do we fix this? Like that 5 year gap between Infinity War and Endgame, that could have been an entire movie itself, or a TV series, whatever you want to do. I'm just saying that's a storyline that's worth pursuing. So, but even if without that little addendum or whatever you want to call it, without that edit, the movie itself is still just really fucking fun. It's a fun movie. It's packed full of characters who all get a decent amount of screen time, and it doesn't feel like overwhelming. You know, like it should be. That many people should be it overwhelming, but they did a good job, not just stuffing them all in there so we can say it's in there, but they actually contribute to the story in different ways. It's very good storytelling. So for me personally, those are my three favorites. But there are others like, okay, Black Panther, the first one, obviously number four. The original Captain America is not my favorite, but like, like I think Winter Soldier probably number five if I had to choose one above the rest. Cause like the original Avengers, I'm watching it now. I love it more as uh, all these years later than I did when I first saw it. But a lot of that also has to do with like hype. I think I said at the time that the hype surrounding this movie made it hard to enjoy the movie because people literally saying, "Oh, it's impossible for you not to like the movie." But there's no such thing as a perfect movie, and if you tell me ahead of time, "Oh, you have to love it. You are going to love it," I'm gonna find every reason I can to hate it. I don't like being told what to do. But it's one of those like the more I watch it, the more it grows on me. But that's true with a lot of the movies. Well, some of them yes, some of them no. Because I still not a huge fan of Part Two of Guardians of the Galaxy, but Part One was my favorite for a long time. It's got knocked down not because it got washed, but because so many better movies got made after it. But it's still a pretty amazing movie. And also, if we're adding the Netflix shows, Daredevil was amazing. I Jessica Jones was okay. Couldn't even finish one season of Power Man. I don't know. I just didn't like that one as much. Didn't even bother with the Iron Fist one. I could just tell, based on his appearance in the Defender season, I'm not gonna like this guy. I'm looking forward to season two. I think episode one's out already. I saw that. Yeah, I watched that other one. I was watching Armor Swords. It's definitely a kids show. It's not intended for adult viewing. But I will say this. It feels very much like a PBS show because it's really easy to watch this show and find so many things to complain about. Just a lot of logic issues, whether it's like we're not sure if they're ready. They have to be. No, they don't. You're sending a bunch of kids out there to their death. But I do love that there are times when the show itself is very self-aware because, like, oh, they send the kids out there on the first mission with absolutely no training, and the bad guys are there waiting. Like, you guys have no idea of the concept of stealth, do you? I mean, we fucking heard you a mile away. What the hell? I'm like, I appreciate when the show is like very aware of its own stupidity, and then you have characters in the show calling out the stupidity of the other characters' actions. And there are some plot twists that were blatantly obvious, but like, there's also some that caught me off guard. Like, holy shit! There's one in the final episode that's like, Oh, that was never gonna be on my bingo card. Wow, good on you. Was sitting through? Not really. I don't think you're gonna miss anything by skipping it, but I don't hate that I sat through it. It's one of those like 5 out of 10. I've definitely seen worse, but there's so much better out there. Don't sit through it if you don't have to, but fuck it, if you got free time and nothing better to do, why not? I just wanted to make a video because I told myself I would put 2 videos up. But the first one took too long and frustrated me too much. So I'm not gonna bother with the second one. I'm gonna make myself a pizza, a frozen pizza. I'm gonna eat that, I'm gonna take a nap. And then I'm just gonna try my best to just enjoy as much of my day as I can. Alright? Thanks for watching.